Now you would think technology, as it gets better and progresses, bikes would get lighter. That's not always what happens. Cell phones, for example, yeah, the battery life has gotten longer, but you'd think they'd become slimmer, more compact, but instead, if anything, they've gotten bigger. And for e-bikes, I've kind of noticed a similar thing happening where bikes are getting heavier. The batteries, although better, are getting physically bigger. So a few years ago, I remember seeing my first e-bike that was getting closer to, like, say 90 pounds, and that seemed so incredibly heavy. It seemed kind of ridiculous to have a bike that weighed that much. But now it's not uncommon to see some motorcycle-inspired bikes or bikes with 2 batteries, 3 batteries that weigh well over 100 pounds. So here's one that's not going with the heavier trend. It's the Urtopia Carbon Pro, and they have decided to take a more minimalist, lightweight approach. Now, the minimalist part does not apply to the technology side of this. This actually does a lot more. Well, it's doing something now, apparently. I think there's something to be said for companies that are willing to try something different. I feel like out of every 10 ideas a company's gonna have, you're probably gonna have 9 of them that really aren't that good and don't stick. But 1 out of 10 is probably a really useful idea and is gonna stick around for a while. Or maybe it'll evolve into something better. So here's one idea they implemented. What sound would you imagine a bike should make when you change the assist level? That seems like an odd question. No bike I've ever ridden makes any sound when I change the assist level. I push the button, the number on the screen changes, and that's it. For some reason, they decided this is what should happen. That's assist level 2. Sounds pleasant, I guess. That's assist level 1. And that's 0. And there's assist level 3. Like a little light piano music to let you know that you've turned the power up all the way and that you're gonna have a nice leisurely ride, I guess. Is that a good idea? Well, I'm not gonna say it's a bad one. I mean, making a noise when you change the assist level just to verify that you're in a different assist level, actually, I don't think is a bad idea. In fact, that's kind of nice now that I think about it, because instead of having to look down at the screen, I can push a button without looking down. I know what level I'm in, especially if the sounds are different between each level, which in this case they are. Is everybody gonna like that? I don't know. Are they gonna like this particular sound? Probably not. I've never seen it done before, and overall, I don't think it's a bad idea. Now, they're not totally relying on you to know what those sounds mean for your assist. They do still have it on the display, which is, I have to say, extremely unique. I'll let you guys decide, or say in the comments, do you think this is a good way to make an e-bike display, or do you prefer the more colorful visuals and graphics? It's using kind of a dot matrix here, and it does mean they can do a lot of stuff here. This is the speed in miles per hour right at the top. I mean, it really is easy to read. I'm in full sun out here. Oh, I didn't try that before. If you try and go above 3, it's kind of a no sound, but in a light, delightful piano way. Now, one thing I'm not totally sold on, and I'm gonna have to check the settings of the bike to see if there's a different way to do this, and I think there probably is. I hope there is, but you kind of have to use the app for a lot of things, it seems like. So if I have the bike off and I want to turn it on right now, as far as I know, these are kind of the factory default settings when you first set the bike up. I press the button here, and you can see nothing happens. I can't turn the bike on, I can't ride it, because it is synced to my phone, and an account. So if I open my phone and now press the unlock button, see there's a power button right here. There we go. Now the bike is on. There's a beep button. What does this do? I don't know. Let's press it. Oh, search function. Wait, let's turn this off. I'm thinking this is going to be like an alarm so you can find where you parked your bike. Okay. I don't think I'm ever going to forget where I parked my bike, but I guess if I did, it's got a beeper for that. So I can turn the light on and off from my phone. Now, why would I want to do that from my phone instead of from a button on the handlebars? I don't know. Usually with e-bikes, the light can turn on and off by holding the plus button. And that did not do that. That actually turned on a turbo mode.
Pay attention to the pump.
What did he say? I don't know what it just did. It just did something. Whoa. Okay, one of those is a walk mode. That's one thing I will say I've learned about this bike so far. It can do a lot of things, but you kind of have to read the instructions. These buttons, as you can see, are not labeled at all. Like if I hold this middle button, that does something. I don't know what it did, but it did something. Let's see, was that the right button? Was it the walk mode? There we go. Yep. I don't think you're ever really going to use the walk mode on this bike because it is so light. That's one of the things they're going for. This is a very unique carbon fiber frame. As you can see, the seat tube does not go all the way down to the bottom bracket. That's part of the design, the aesthetic, and my basic understanding of that is also part of the comfort. So when you're designing a carbon frame or any bicycle frame out of different materials, you don't want the bike to actually be too stiff. So carbon is known to be incredibly stiff and incredibly light. So if they did have a seat tube coming all the way straight down here, the ride might have actually been a little too harsh and uncomfortable. So by having this more open design here, what that means is that you can actually have a little bit of flex between these 2 points where it's connected at the front and the back, and it's just going to make the bike a more comfortable ride. Now, although they have focused on making this lightweight, they do want it to be a practical commuter type bike, something you could use every day. So it's got fenders front and rear. They have bosses on the front fork, so you can mount a front rack with pannier bags. They have a rack designed for the back as well and mounting points for it. In a lot of their videos, they're showing people picking these things up over their shoulder, running up and down stairs. I'm not gonna do that, but yes, I could walk up to the bike easily and pick it up with one hand, which is not something that's easy to do with most e-bikes, especially those ones I was talking about earlier. All right, so I just connected, I believe, to the Bluetooth speaker. That's something I see a lot of people buy for their e-bike. They put a speaker up on the handlebars so they can listen to music while they're on a ride. Let's test this out and see if I got it working right. So if you wanted to stop on the side of the road and watch one of my YouTube videos with the speaker coming through your bike, 1,438 watts. You can do that. Or just connect it to Spotify or music app or podcast, whatever. So that's kind of cool that they decided to use this kind of as a multi-purpose, function sounds of the bike itself and also a built-in Bluetooth speaker. Is that a good idea, bad idea? On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna give that one an 8. One of the cool things it has for security is that this right here, I can set up as a fingerprint scanner. If you want to have this thing totally locked down, but you don't want to enter a password or remember a password every time, you could set that up so it just recognizes your thumbprint. And speaking of security, this next feature I'm going to give a 10 out of 10 on. Every e-bike could benefit from having this. If you look down here on the corner of the app, it says fence. So you have a map that pops up on screen. You can create an electronic fence So if your bike goes outside of a certain area, that's gonna alert you that the bike has left, and the bike has built-in GPS. So you can open up the app and see where your bike is. You can track it. You don't have to buy an extra tracking device. It's just already built into the bike. They have a video on their website of how somebody recovered one of their bikes because they were able to use the app, locate where the person was riding the bike, and just see, oh, it's going back to this address every time they go for a ride. Clearly that's where it is. I definitely think a lot of the value you're getting out of the Urtopia is the technology. What you're not getting is a giant battery. You're not getting a massively powerful motor. The fit and finish is really good. I kind of like the matte carbon color they've gone with. They're running Tektro hydraulic disc brakes, which are more than sufficient for a lightweight bike like this. Very compact little motor. Realistically, from a distance, you can't even tell this thing is an e-bike. I can tell the quality is a touch higher than most of the e-bikes out there because they are not using a freewheel. This is a cassette. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-speed cassette. Now this is going to be a little trickier to put on my dyno than most because there's no throttle. I really like having a throttle on all of my e-bikes. Kind of a bummer it doesn't have one because, in my opinion, there's no downside to having one. You can not use it if you don't want to use it, but it's nice to have it when it's there. Also makes my dyno test a lot easier. So what I'll have to do is pedal to where I feel like I'm getting the max torque sensing through this and get it baseline with me pedaling on the bike, and then with no power on, of course, and then do a second run with me pedaling with the motor, and then kind of subtract my effort out to give you guys a ballpark of what the power is. Now, perfect way to do this test, or a more perfect way I should say, would be to have something like some power tap pedals that are actually measuring my input and subtract that out more accurately. If someone from like Garmin or somebody's watching this and they want to sponsor some of my dyno videos for any bike that doesn't have a throttle, please reach out. But for today, we're just going to get a ballpark on the power and torque figures for this bike. So this is running more of a road bike size tire. I think these are probably, I'm going to have to double check. They're probably 700C tires, which is equivalent to a 29er, if you didn't know, but typically much narrower. These are on the wide side for a road bike tire, which means more comfortable, a little more tire volume. All right, so this is maximum power, level 3. They rate the bike at 350 watts. And I mean, it cruises up that hill fairly easy. It is so light, that's obviously helping. And I bet down this hill, it's going to just fly. I did notice if you quickly press the middle button, gives you like a bicycle bell. Sounds more like a friendly little train. Here's a really steep hill. I am in about gear 5. I think that'll be good to cruise up and over this. Let's see how this thing handles a hill. I'm gonna have to pedal hard because it's a torque sensor, unfortunately. Oh boy. I mean, it's better than no motor at all. But you can see that I actually have to put some effort in to get up and over that hill. A lot of bikes, I can just throttle over it. Don't have that option here. And if it had a throttle, I don't think there's enough torque that it could do it on its own. I think I'd have to pedal anyway. Bike is nice and stable. As far as geometry goes and that sort of thing, feels great. Now, I've made a lot of videos about, like I said, motorcycle style bikes, e-bikes that are heavier. 0. And most of those I have been pretty clear about. You're not going to want to pedal them without battery power. Some of them you wouldn't even want to pedal with battery power. This bike is the complete opposite of all of those. I just turned the bike down to 0 and I can pedal this. Not just easily, but I can pedal this as if it was a bicycle, not an electric bike. It's light enough, it rolls smooth enough, the gearing is decent enough that you could pedal this comfortably without power. Now I have a motor, so I'm not going to do that. But you can. This bike can also provide turn-by-turn directions. So open up the app, enter your destination in, and instead of looking at your phone, you can put it away back in your pocket, and directions are going to show up on the screen. You get arrows that'll pop up and point you to either side. I think that's a pretty cool feature, and actually something you might use. We still got to hold everybody accountable and see, does this thing put out a realistic 350 watts or more, and how much torque does it have? So let's go throw it on the dyno. Your guess is below. I am going to say the torque doesn't feel bad, but I'm going to say 15 pound-feet. This is where the lightweight is quite nice. This is going to be a little tricky. It's going to go great, huh, Callie? I think I need something to hold that. I think that might do it. Just add a little bit of stability. So let's get a benchmark with just me pedaling, and then I'm gonna try and pedal the same amount of effort, and then subtract those results. Should get us a ballpark number. There we go. Oh, the drum is heavy. All right, that should be full power for the torque sensor. All right, I put out a measly 218 watts and 10.63 pound-feet of torque. All right, here we go. All right, so combined, me plus the bike, we got 966 watts, almost 1,000 watts, and 26 pound-feet of torque. So let's do 966 minus the 218. Surprisingly, that actually puts us at 748 watts of peak power, more than I was expecting. And then for torque, I got to minus out 10.63. So 26 minus 10.63. I got 15.73. So I underestimated the overall power the bike has. So technically, that does put it kind of in the middle here. We could put it just above or just below the Rad Power bikes. Because the torque is quite a bit lower, I am going to put it at the bottom of the list. Torque really does make a big difference, and from me testing it up some of those hills, I don't want people to think that this is something that's got enough power to really carry you up a hill on its own, because it just doesn't have that low-end grunt like some of the other bikes do. I want to hear your comments and feedback. What type of bike are you into? Do you like the lighter weight, slimmer bicycle that rides like a traditional bicycle and gives you a little bit of help? Do you like the extra tech features that come in something like the Urtopia? I do think we're going to see more and more things like this as time goes on, but this one is technologically a little more advanced than most. Or would you prefer the bikes that are in fact heavier? You can't pedal as much, but they've got really big batteries, they've got throttles, and you can just cruise around. Now, I'm not saying that one or the other is better for everyone. In fact, I think that's the great thing about e-bikes is there's such a wide range of possibilities. I think we're still just scratching the surface. And I think both types of e-bikes are going to grow over the next several years. Of course, if you like the Urtopia, they're on sale right now for $24.99. Link in the description where you can pick one of these up.